Hey fellas, happy Friday night. It is Pilot Jam on August 12th, well past the middle point of the year, heading for the football season. You guys know football season's coming, and I've got a young man playing football this year on Friday nights for high school. So just want to remind you that the Pilot Jam is going to be shifting away from Friday nights during football season, during high school football season in the States. I think it's going to be Thursday. We're going to move it to Thursday nights instead. But I just wanted to throw that one out there because it's going to happen and it's coming up soon. So we're back at school already, and football season is right around the corner. So I just want to remind you guys again that it's not going to be Friday night during football season. We're going to switch over to a Thursday. Anyway, Hobie was in first. How you doing, Hobie? Glad you could make it. He was on it too, man. I think right after the bot said hello in Discord, Hobie jumped in and said first. Boom. He nailed it. Robert was second. He's on the ball today. I guess Robert got his dose of maple syrup and he's ready to play. Drone Pilot, how you doing, Elias? Glad you can make it. Mr. Skyrider's here. Hello. NH Jim is here. Hello. The David Knut's in the house. How's it going, David? William Tam is here, and let's see, Philip Jang from Australia is here. Hey, Philip, how's it going? And Four Eyes is in here as well. Hey, if you pop in, say hello in the chat so we know you're here. And like they've already said, David mentioned if you could give a thumbs up, that'd be great. I'd appreciate that. Thumbs up always help with placement and stuff like that. I'll tell you what, we're going to cover some material today, but we're going to talk a little bit about the week in review first, and then it's going to be a very ELRS night tonight. Very ELRS. I have a lot of stuff to cover on Express LRS. There's Richard Webb. How you doing, Richard? So we'll start out by the recapping the Radiomaster TX12 how to flash ELRS. I did that video first. I figured with a new radio out, it's nice to get instructions on how to flash stuff, because you know, if you're going to update your firmware and keep current with what's going on in the world of ELRS with all these little devices and gadgets and new things they do, it would be a good idea to put a video out there on how to do those types of upgrades. So that's what that video was all about. And then next I did the DIY switches. So on this radio, I added the new Radiomaster DIY. So that little guy right there. And then I set up a global function to use that as a timer reset. You could use it for anything. You could use it for instant trim or screenshot or calling out a telemetry value if you wanted, like current or voltage or something like that. All kinds of little options for that. But that was a really easy upgrade. I'll tell you what surprised me about that upgrade, though, was that you can see I did the LED rings, right? So I added those, and I used the same type of switch I did on the eSheen radio. But the problem is that the rings use both of those SI and SJ ports on the main board for power. So if you do the rings and the DIY switch, you've got to cut them. So you got to cut the DIY switch, can stay, but you have to cut the JSTs off the LED rings and then solder them together. It's no problem. I don't mind soldering, so it was no big deal, but it turned into a little bit of a DIY type project because now I have both the rings and the button in the back. But anyway, no big deal. And I really like the rings on the AG01 gimbals. Let me bring up the big cam. Let's just bring up the big cam right there. Look at that. I love those LED rings on the AG01 gimbals. It really looks sharp with the black and silver color scheme, man. I'm really digging that. And of course, my little toggle up there works, so if I don't want to use them, I can turn that off, and I'm really happy with the way that came out for sure. So I didn't do a video on this because I had done a video on this before, so I didn't bother doing another one. I just put them in there. It took me about 25 minutes, a little extra work because I already had the switch in and I had to do a little extra soldering, but no big deal. It was a lot of fun. I like tinkering with this kind of stuff. Anyway, we did the after the DIY switch, I did the Express LRS Crossfire to S-Bus conversion. And that was a shorty, a little quickie video, and it was just to give you guys a taste of what's coming. And I'm going to bring up the big camera again and take a look at this, if I can get the button to press. This is kind of the future for Express LRS, at least one incarnation of it. There's going to be a lot of them, by the way, a lot of different options, but this is the future. So that little postage stamp right there with the little antenna, that is the EP2 format, or the RP2 if it's Radiomaster, the little ceramic antenna or 3D antenna they like to call it. And then the little S-Bus converter board right on the top with a single lead off the back. And I did the little shorty video going into an S-Bus monitor showing that we now have us S-Bus working, and a full 16 channels, 16 full channels coming off this little guy on a single wire, open source. And this is a $14 receiver and about a $2.50 board. So 16 bucks, and you got a full, very long range full channel, full 16 channel S-Bus option for Express LRS. I'm so excited about that. We're going to talk about this in some level of detail tonight, so hang tight. We're going to come back to that. Next up was the Express LRS tips and tricks. So yeah, I spent some time talking with Radio Master, spent some time talking with the Edge guys, and I learned some things. I had done some experimentation. Boy, I was mad scientist this week with the Express LRS stuff. I literally kind of went nuts buying a whole bunch of gear, bringing it in. I've got boards and converters, and I've got stabilizers and receivers and all kinds of stuff that I've been kind of fiddling around with this week, because we're going to talk about why in just a minute. But Express LRS, I'm really kind of going in that direction now. And I know it's funny because I just put a video up saying that Crossfire was the receiver technology to beat, but that was right before they dropped 3.0. And boy, did 3.0 change things, man. Boy, did that change my opinion about Express LRS in a big way. So anyway, that was the next video, was the tips and tricks. If you haven't watched that yet and you want to learn a little bit more about Express LRS, I would encourage you to watch that video. It's a good video. Everything in there was kind of fleshed out either with the developers on Edge or by my own research and knowledge, or by experimentation. So I would tell you that it's a good tips video, and if you're kind of getting into Express LRS, definitely would be a worthwhile video for you to spend a little time on. And then, you know, as you watch it, it might give you some ideas and things you want to go spend a little time learning about as well. So just keep that in mind. And then finally, of course, the Pilot Jam. So that wraps up the week in review. It was a good week. It was a good week. So anyway, you might notice I just changed the topic on the screen down there. It says ELRS checkmate. And let me jump into why, man. I've been so excited about this because, you know, for so long, Express LRS was really, I think the people that made it were quad pilots, probably because of the way they initially arranged it. You know, 4 channels, number 5 was arming aux 1. That's very much a Betaflight thing. And then, you know, a couple of other channels with reduced resolution that are fine for doing things like flight modes and dual rates and, you know, whatever. Goofing off with cameras, switching cameras around, fine for that kind of stuff, no problem. So it seemed to be very much a quad thing. And then recently with Express LRS 3.0, what they did is they really opened it up, because now you've got 16 channels fully proportional. Now it is half rate, and we'll talk a little bit about that too, but 16 channels fully proportional, and now you combine that with the S-Bus converter or the PWM capabilities that we're seeing on some of these, and they've really opened it up for a whole different set of platforms. So what I would say is a Betaflight and iNav were cared for, no problem. If you had an iNav plane or a Betaflight quad or craft or whatever, Express LRS is a great solution. It worked. I've tested it. I've flown it. It was fine for that. But if you're flying fixed wing without an actual flight computer, kind of a different story. So what I want to do is switch over to the big camera. I'm going to move these two guys out of the way. I'm going to keep Precious nearby, and what I want to do is bring this little rig in and let you see what's going on and give you a look at the first one. And the thing that I'm going to put the chat away too, because I really want you guys to be able to see what's happening here. So let me just get this radio set aside. And I'm using Precious as the test radio, and that's one of the very cool things about Express LRS is you use the same binding phrase on your transmitter and your receiver. You can do all your work on one and instantly bind it up on another, no problem. So with that done, I want to go ahead and connect the I'm going to connect the power. And what I wanted to show you guys first was the very most rudimentary setup. And the reason I like this is because this is a great solution for a basic airplane. And we're going to talk about S-Bus. Trust me, we're going to get into that. But I want to cover PWM first because this is ready now. It's ready now. You can do it now. You don't violate any of the protocols or standards or guidance that are out there. And it works. Completely functional and super cost effective. Okay, so what I want to do is right now I've got the receipt. This is the stabilizer. Let me go through the wiring diagram real quick. I only have one servo on because that's all we really need for the demo, right? Just one servo. And then I've got the wiring connection. I did this to show you why we do S-Bus instead of PWM. Because in the PWM model, if you want to have your channels, your main 4 channels, aileron, elevator, that's starting here, aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, and then you also need to have a mode switch and a gain switch, okay? Mode to control the flight mode of the stabilizer, and then gain, because for me, I really like to have remote gain on a stabilizer. It's just one of those things I like to have, because when I'm flying, if it's reacting too much, I can just turn the knob down and it reduces the stabilizer reaction a little bit right over the radio channel, and I just like that. It's the way to go. So that's what you need. You need a minimum of 6, right? So it's 4 of the regular channels plus your mode and your gain, okay? So this is a very basic setup illustrating that this now works with Express LRS with equipment you can buy today. By the way, this is a Matek Express LRS board. It's a P24 6 channel, goes for $15, okay? $15 for this receiver, and this is full Express LRS. This is flashed with, I flashed it when I got it. It came surprisingly with 3.0 release candidate 1. I was surprised at that, and I immediately flashed it to release candidate 2, put my binding phrase on, and up it came. The other thing I want to point out that's important, we're going to talk about this arming switch thing, okay? The arming switch thing, without getting into all the technical mumbo jumbo about it, bottom line is that the Express LRS, the way they configured it initially, is they expect to see an arming signal come from your radio. So if you're used to doing a fixed wing, let me bring the radio, oops. Let me bring the radio up here and show you, if you're used to doing fixed wing, when you do arming on fixed wing, that's all you do. You do a look at special function number 1. All we do is override a channel. We take SH1, that's my throttle lock, and we override the throttle channel with a value of -100. And when we do that and we bring up our channel monitor, you can see that there's channel 3 with the little lock right there, and as I move my throttle, when that mixer goes up and down, that's fine, but my output stays. It doesn't move until I unlock it. When I unlock it right there, then the throttle mixer moves and the output line moves. But here's the thing, that switch in a normal fixed wing arrangement is not broadcast via RF. We don't normally put that on a channel, right? Because you don't need to. A throttle lock for fixed wing is a local concept. We're not telling a flight computer to arm or disarm. We're only locally telling the radio, whatever happens with the stick, keep the output set at -100. So keep it floored on the bottom, brakes on. That's all that's happening. So what happens is the transmitter never tells the throttle to advance. But as far as the airplane note, it's just sitting there waiting like, okay, what are we doing, right? It doesn't know what's going on. There's no signal, all right? That's the idea. But in the quad world, you do arm because you got to tell the flight computer you're ready to fly. You tell the flight computer you're ready to fly, it turns things on like your OSD, your timer, maybe it starts recording your camera, it starts spooling up the motors, it does all kinds of things. So in the quad world, they normally do send an arming signal on a channel, and that's where the breakage is. So that's why you hear all this business about using an arming signal on channel 5. And furthermore, in order to save bandwidth and get more range out of the signal, the LoRa signal on Express LRS, they reduced channel 5 to a 1-bit switch. So that means either on or off. That's it. So channel 5 in Express LRS native, in the older versions, it was just a 1-bit switch. It only had 2 states. So channel 5 could either be on or off, and that's it. Just like when I flip this switch, it's either locked or it's unlocked, right? Same deal. So that's what the whole arming thing was about. And there were a few other things it did too. It would tell the transmitter no more changes, right? No more changes would be made in terms of the switch mode, for example. It would tell dynamic power, go ahead and go into effect, right? If you use dynamic power in Express LRS, it would tell that to go into effect. And there were a couple of other little knick-knacky kind of things that would happen with the receiver, because the receiver received this signal from the transmitter saying, hey, we're armed, we're ready to fly, stop messing around, let's pay attention, right? And in fixed wing, we just don't need that. So the problem is that's kind of a leftover, and it creates a little bit of conflict. Now, here's the magic part about the PWM setup and why I'm showing this to you. And it's because in this PWM setup, as you well know, the Express LRS receivers have a web interface. So when you fire them up, you can connect to their AP, their access point, and go into their web interface, which initially is always 10.0.0.1 in your browser. You have to connect to your receiver in your Wi-Fi settings on your computer, and once it connects to the Express LRS RX, then you open up your browser and you type in 10.0.0.1, and you're in. And in that web setting, there's an option to remap the pins. So what basically happens is we tell this receiver, hey, the pin 5, this one that's marked right here, that pin 5, that's actually not pin 5. That's actually, it's pin 5, but it's channel 6. So what happens is we still send channel 5 on the stream into the receiver, right? It comes into the receiver over the air, but the receiver doesn't put that channel out on one of these pins. It just keeps it internally. So let me show you what that means. Let me show you how it manifests itself in the setup. So when I press Express LRS, you see how it says armed right there? Let me zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see it. Let me zoom in just a little bit. You see how it's flashing armed right there? That's because it's got an arm signal, and it's because I enabled my lock switch to go out over channel 5. If I pull this switch forward and lock it, that arm indicator goes away. And here's how you do it on the radio. The radio setup's super simple. All you do is you go into your mixer and you go down to channel 5 and you add a switch. All I did was add a switch that says SH. That's it. And I use a value of -100 because in my case, I wanted to unlock when I push away. That's armed. Okay. So if you want it to be unlocked when you pull it toward you, you just use a value of 100. If you want it unlocked when you push away, use a value of -100. So that's it. That's the mixer configuration. And again, we normally wouldn't put this switch on an RF channel for fixed wing, but in order to tell your Express LRS receiver that you're armed, you need to broadcast that toggle switch on channel 5. All right. So let me go into the, let's see, System, Express LRS, and you'll see armed right there. All right. So that's the arming thing. But here's the deal. On this device, I told the radio, when you get channel 5, don't put it out on pin 5. What you want to do is you want to put channel 6 out on pin 5. So if we look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this pin right here, that's number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me get a pointer here. It's a lot easier instead of my big fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That guy right there, that's pin number 5. What I did in the GUI is I said, when you output on this pin, this physical pin, this where the signal is connected, you don't put channel 5 on that pin, you put in channel 6. That's what you output. And on this one, you output channel 7. Okay? So what channel 6 does, I'll go into my mixer and show you that real quick. Go out of here and click on that. And then, whoops, sorry, wrong button. And there we go in the mixer. So in the mixer, you can see channel 5 is arm, channel 6 is mode. So channel 6 is the mode switch. That's the one that goes on the channel 5 outbound pin. The channel 5, 3, 4, 5. The channel 5 outbound pin right there, that's the mode switch. Now, where that goes on the receiver, or the stabilizer rather, is right here into the mode slot, okay? So with PWM, you can lie. This thing doesn't know about channel 5, doesn't have any idea about channel 5. It would if I used S-Bus, but I'm not using S-Bus. All it knows is that the mode signal is coming in on the mode switch. That's all it knows. So even though I have my signal wire on pin 5, and my radio and my receiver, I've remapped pin 5 to output channel 6. Channel 6 now is the one that rides on pin 5, and it connects to the mode switch on the receiver, or on the stabilizer, sorry. Okay, and then the final one is real easy, that's gain. So on that one, we have the 7th pin, and if you look at the radio, number 7 is simply an S2 switch for gain. Now, I'll show you how all this stuff works and why it's so cool. So it works right away with PWM, and you don't have to do anything more fancy than one remap, and that's it. And that's actually done in a web browser. Very simple to do. All right, just so you guys know, I'll do a standalone video on this. I wanted to show the Pilot Jam guys this one because, you know, this is some topic that we can delve into and have a discussion format. So that's why I'm doing this. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put the radio where you guys can see it, and I'm going to put the receiver where you can see it. And I really want the two things I really want are the servo, and the receiver doesn't really matter too much, but I want you to see the stabilizer, okay? So right now I have the stabilizer off, and I'll show you this configuration too, but I have the stabilizer off in SC mode, and I can control my aileron just by using this stick, okay? Plenty fast, no worries. It looks perfectly good to me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the stabilizer on, this is what I call wind rejection mode. And if you watch any of my flight videos, you know the only thing I really care for on these stabilizers is wind rejection mode. That's all I care about. And I like it because of where I live. In Florida, it's a very windy place, and it's nice just to be able to turn on wind rejection and let the stabilizer deal with the wind, and I just fly the plane. It's not that I can't fly the plane. I can fly it, and I wouldn't put a plane up if I couldn't fly it. So that's just my personal thing. All I use the wind rejection for is reducing my workload. That's it. That's all I'm doing. It's kind of like using trim in a plane. We use trim in a real full-size airplane to reduce our workload. That's the only real reason it's there. You can fly the plane without trimming it. It can be harder, you know, exercise your muscles a little bit. Okay, so wind rejection mode, what should happen when I move this thing, when I move the stabilizer, we should see a temporary rejection of the movement, and then the servo should go right back to where it is. So I'm going to rotate as if I'm rolling the aircraft, right? I'm going to rotate it on the axis, and there you go. You see a movement? Right, there's wind rejection mode, okay? And then the other one that this has, because this is not a 6-axis, this is a 3-axis stabilizer, is it has 3D mode. It doesn't have that self-leveling mode or attitude or stabilize mode or whatever you want to call it, but it does have 3D mode, and what that means is it tries to maintain whatever attitude you let go. I probably won't use this. I'll probably turn this function off, but I wanted to show you that it's there. So notice how the LED turned red, and in this case, when I move the stabilizer, there we go. I'm holding it up, and that servo did not return. It's trying to hold its spot. Okay? So that's what we call 3D mode on a 3-axis gyro. All right. Now, one other thing I want to show you is by going back into the wind rejection mode, I've got the gain all the way up right now. I'm just going to turn the gain all the way down. That's all I've done is turn S2 all the way down. And now when I rotate the stabilizer, see, there's no movement on the servo, right? None at all. If I just reach over here and I turn this gain knob back up, and I move the stabilizer again, now I've got movement on my servo again. That's called remote gain adjustment. And I really, for me, I strongly prefer remote gain adjustment, because when I'm flying, all I've got to do is set the gain where I want it. If I see it's reacting too much, it's maybe waffling a little bit or fluttering a little bit, all I had to do is turn the gain down just a little bit. That's all I got to do. And that takes that problem right out, and the plane flies smooth as a cupcake with whatever kind of wind is going on up there. Right, so here's the deal, guys. This setup, this is a Hobby Eagle A3L V2, a light version. They have lots of different options of these things. I would encourage you to go look and pay attention to the different variables they have, because they really do a lot of different options. This is an L version. It's a basic version. It only does 4 channels. They do have some that do aileron 2 and elevator 2 and throttle out. This one does not do throttle out. Notice that the throttle, the ESC, does not plug in. Here's the ESC signal wire. That does not plug into this stabilizer anywhere. So this means it doesn't do any kind of return to home. It doesn't maintain your altitude. It doesn't do anything like that, right? It doesn't even know about the throttle. The throttle stays on your receiver. Okay, so this doesn't have a channel 3. And this is one of the experiments that I've been working on to make sure I could call this stuff out for you guys, right? To make sure you knew what you needed to look out for. So in this case, this is an A3 LV2, and I'll tell you why I got this one. It was literally the cheapest one I could find that had remote gain and S-Bus support. Okay, and this was 19 bucks. So you take the 19 bucks, you pair it with a $15 receiver, and you're $29, $34. 34 bucks for a 6-channel. Yeah, it's a 6-channel PWM with stabilization. That's a pretty darn good deal. That's a pretty good deal, and it's ready to go today. You can have it right now. You can have it. It's out there. So I really wanted to show you that one first. I am going to give you a look at S-Bus. We're not going to set it up. I did a short video on that. I'm not going to set it up. I'll let you look at it, but I'll tell you why I'm not going to do an S-Bus setup on it tonight. And it's because I still want to see what they do about that channel 5 thing. That's not resolved yet. And on the S-Bus receivers, there is no remap capability. Now, allegedly on some of these S-Bus boards, there's supposedly some remap capability. I don't know if it's on this one or not. I know it's on the Crossfire to PWM board. You can do it for the 6-channel and the 10-channel. I'm not 100% if there's a remap available on the S-Bus board. I don't think there is. So I need to see what they're going to do with channel 5 before I put video material out on this. So hang tight on that one. We will come to it. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to disconnect this. I want to disconnect this now and set that aside. And I think that's it on the radio configuration. I thought there might be one other thing I was going to show you guys, maybe in the special functions. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the mode switches. So before I do that, let me check the questions and see if I missed anything before I go on. So HB Jeff came in. Happy Friday, all. How you doing, Jeff? Glad you can make it. A little ahead of the times. Been ELRS for months now. Love it. That's good. You have been. He's just been working at it. 4, I still haven't figured out EdgeTX. Well, stick with it, keep watching the videos, and keep playing, my friend. That's all I can say. Robert says, being a mad scientist, let's see where the Bride of Frankenstein comes from. Precious, whatever you want to call it. Hey. Oh, Robert. Oh, Precious is already there for you. So he said he wants a zoom. That's what he was asking for. There you go. Nice and close, intimate view for you. He just puked in his mouth. No more extreme close-ups. Andrew says, hey, what's up, John? How you doing, Andrew? Hobie says, tastes like week of old maple syrup. All right, okay, we're on a maple syrup thing. Paolo says, hello, how you doing, my friend? Glad you can make it. Could you make it dynamic gain? Well, probably, Robert. You know, I've done the dual dynamic rates, so it wouldn't be too hard to set gain. I mean, gain is just a function, right? So you could link things like your throttle level to your gain setting and reduce it. Or even connect it to a curve. You could even mix it. You could even say, well, you know, as my throttle goes up, bring my gain down. Yeah, so there's certainly ways you could do that. If you look on the channel for dynamic dual rates, that'll give you some logic on how to do that kind of work on the radio. So yes, you could do it. Kind of like a snippet. Yeah. Well, like I said, look for that dynamic dual rates. And did you even sleep? No, I didn't. Robert, I told Robert, I was up all night last night working on stuff, working on the bench, doing some work, talking to people, trying to get myself caught up, getting educated, and I never did go to bed last night, and then I had to work today, so I didn't no sleeping. Which ELRS PWM RX is that? This is the Matek. This is the Matek 6-channel. I think it's called an R24-P6. That's what it's called. Take a look right there. We'll see if I can get the camera to focus on that for you guys. Maybe not. There we go. R24-P6, Matek ELRS receiver, PWM. I don't care if you guys see that little solder blob right there. I don't care. It's all ground, so it's fine. But yeah, and the antenna is already actually on it. It's a little tiny dipole, but you know, honestly, when it comes to Express LRS, I just don't worry about the antenna too much. Make sure it's kind of oriented, you know, in line with the way I'm going to fly it, but that's about it. And you do have to solder the pins in too, by the way, just so you know. Matek has a thing. They'll solder all kinds of diodes and circuits on these boards, but man, they do not install header pins. And with PWM, you kind of need them. I don't know why they don't. Jess is very cool. John, Robert says Matek. Right, Robert? Got my first ELRS module in RX today. Perfect timing. Good, Todd. There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, man. All I can tell you is stick around, because on the channel, there's going to be a lot of Express LRS stuff coming, because there's a lot to cover. Not only with the radio different formats being set up, but there's also, you know, configuration issues and conversations to have. Oh, let's go back to the radio for just a minute. And I'm going to plug this in. And this is one of the things that I learned on the talking with the developers about what was going on these radios. So you have these telemetry alarm values, right? And I didn't know this, but when it comes to Express LRS telemetry, these low and critical alarms right here, these two guys are actually reading RQLY right there. Now, RQLY is really broken up into two parts. It's broken up into RF mode and link quality. So on the radio, in the handset, they break it in half. So RQLY is the receiver link quality, and then you have RF mode right here. RF mode is directly connected to your packet rate. So when you go into your ELRS settings and you say, I'm at 333, if I were to lower this, say down to 100. I don't memorize the table for these, but if I lower that down to 100, and then I go back and look at my RF mode in telemetry, what you're going to see is my RF mode changes, right? Because that's what it's linked to. The RF mode is linked. See how it's now on number 4? So the RF mode is linked to your packet rate. Now, with Crossfire, that matters because Crossfire does dynamic packet rates. We have dynamic power, but not dynamic packet rates. There is a difference. There's a big difference between the two. So on Crossfire, they do dynamic packet rate. In Express LRS, they do dynamic power. They do not do dynamic packet rate, which is why when I did the logic in that video, I didn't worry too much about RF mode, because whatever you set it on, that's what it's on. Unless while you're flying, you go and do what I just did. You go into Express LRS Lua script and you change your packet rate to something lower, then your RF mode would drop. But the main point about this is that if you have a device that automatically changes your packet rate, then you might want to be concerned about this RF mode, because if it starts dropping, say 3, and they only have like 3, so if on Crossfire, so if it goes from 3, maybe it's 2, but 3 to 2 to 1, if you get down to 0, you're screwed, right? Your quad or airplane's falling from the sky. So on Express LRS, the RF mode doesn't change unless you change it. That's why I didn't include RF mode in the calculation for the telemetry. And I will be doing a telemetry video in some detail where I'll explain how this stuff all comes together. But that, I just wanted to point it out. That wasn't missed. That wasn't an omission on my part. I know exactly where the RF mode was, but it's not relevant because it's fixed. And then on the radio is looking at this value right here, RQLY. And I was actually talking with Raphael from the Edge team about this, and he said, yeah, it's definitely using RQLY. And I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah, I'm 100% sure. I said, no, are you sure you're sure? Because it seems to me like this says RSSI, so you'd expect this to be RSSI, right? But it's not. When it comes to express out this value, this alarm has to be a positive value. And if you look at RSSI, it is a negative value. See that negative 39? That's why he knew that this was not an RSSI value. It's actually a derived value, and that's why you can only go as high as 75. You can go lower, you go down to you can go down to 15, but you can only go as high as 75, and it has to do with some, we'll call it legacy OpenTX free sky stuff. And I like I said, I have it on good authority. They're going to fix this. And what's really cool about this is they're going to move away from these derived numbers. And I think, here's what I expect. I think they're going to use dBm as the meter up here, which is just fantastic, because that's one of the huge questions we get all the time. People say, what value should I set in here? And the old free sky values, if you flew free sky, remember, these are derived values. They're derived. They're not actually dB measurements. They're derived from dB. But if you remember the old free sky setups, they were always 45 and 42. So what happens is people will go out and fly a Spectrum, and they get alerts all the time and go, what the hell? Why am I getting alerts? Well, it's because they're not using the right scale. And that's why in the video today, I put that information in there so you knew on Express LRS to use the right scale. The best scale we have right now is 75. When they fix this field so we can increase past 75, I'm going to use 80 here for the low alarm. And on this one, I'm going to use 70. But right now, because you could put this one up to 70, I guess, if you wanted to, but that's a real small range between low and critical. I figure I want a little bit more space than that. So that's why I set it to 65 in the video. But when we get the full range, and it's going to be dBm, which will be super cool, that'll answer every question, because no one's going to worry about it anymore. They're not going to say, wait a minute, you know, what does this 45, 42 business mean? You're going to be able to look at it, and hopefully they'll say dBm, and you'll know exactly what's there. What is that measuring and where it comes from. And we're also hoping that they change this label. So instead of RSSI, if they're deriving it from RQLY, we're hoping that they put that derived label up here, and it'll say RQLY low and critical, which would be so cool. So cool, so cool. I'm really, you know, and this is what's really nice about having a development team that's invested in working with the community, because they try and work this stuff out, right? And it definitely makes the system better for everybody. So I wanted to walk you guys through a little bit of detail, because I didn't do that in the fast moving video today. I figured Pilot Jam would be a good format. And hey, you know, this is for the guys that are really close to the channel, so you guys got a lot of extra information there. Okay, the last thing I want to do is show you the mode switches. I mentioned this a couple of times. Notice I have SC down, SC mid, and SC up. The reason I did that is because the default modes, I didn't like the way they arranged them. So in theirs, it was like the switch was in the middle position, that turned it off. It was in the up position, it had gyro on, and if it was in the down position, it had whatever 3D mode, and I just didn't like that. So the way I got around that was I simply used overrides. There are only 3 positions that this thing responds to. It's 100, 0, and negative 100. So it's a simple matter of figuring out, okay, if SC is down, where is off? That, and it happens to be at 0. So if I press the model button and we look at my mode switch, which is number 6, When I put it in the middle, I thought it was overriding to, oh, it's overriding, there it is, negative 100. When I put it in the down position, it overrides it to 0. So if we look at the monitor, when I have it in the down position, oh, I don't know what I'm missing here, but that should be 0. So you've got up, middle, and down, and in the down position, it turns it off. And then in the mid position, it turns on wind rejection. And then in the up position, that goes the other way and it sets it, the output is over here, the mix is there, so it's reversed. So that just sets it to be, I probably have, in the mixer, I have that, yeah, I have that negative, don't I? The reason I did that is because I was using, I know what I was doing. I was using, gain on this channel for a little while. I was fiddling around with stuff. So there we go. That should make more sense. Yeah, so that's off, and now the mixer lines up the output. Sorry. So there's off, and we're at the mixer is showing 100%, but the output is showing 0. So we've overridden, even though the switch is all the way down, we've overridden the output and set it at 0. When I move the switch in the middle spot, the mixer is actually at 0, but we've overridden the output and set it to 100, and then we move it all the way up, and the mixer is all the way to the left, or negative 100, but the output is positive 100. Those are the overrides, and that's how I got the switch order to work the way I wanted it to work on the stabilizer. That's all I had to do. So if you don't like the order of operations, you know, for your mode switch on your radio, that's all you've got to do is use overrides. There's only 3 positions. It's very easy to do. And if you're wondering, yes, you could use your switches up here if you want to. You can use any switch here on the radio you want. You would just use the same technique, right? You'd say SP1 is this, SP2 is that, SP3 is this. Okay. All right. That's pretty much it on the material for the night. And let me go back to the desktop. And I've got an EdgeTX update to give you guys. And then I also have to talk about this thing for a little bit. We'll get into that. But before I do, I want to check questions, and then we will get ready to wrap things up tonight. So very cool. Matek, thanks, guys. Got my first. Okay, got that. I heard Free Sky has a new system coming out like that. It's also called Express Our Sorrow for screwing you guys. Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, man. I'll be... you know, if you're a patron, get on Patreon. I left some really critical information for you guys there, but I'm going to tell the rest of you that are here on the show with me, if you're happy with what you have, use it. There's no problem with that. It's your money, your hobby, right? Do your thing. But here's what's got me energized about all of this. And that's that I can get rid of everything. I can get rid of everything I've got going forward, and that's all I need. All I need is one of those, and I just have to determine what format I need to put it out on. If I'm going to put it on a quad, hold on a second. Here it is. If I'm going to put it on a quad, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a straight receiver with 3 pins, maybe not 3 pins, could just solder it directly, but that's it. That's a quad right there, because that's an EP2, or sorry, that's an EP1, or you can get an EP2 with the antenna, and it's going to output. I have them backwards, don't I? EP1 has the T antenna. This is an EP2. So the EP2, if you're okay using a little ceramic antenna, or if you want the T, you can get an EP1, but that's it. That's the receiver for a quad or a 9av plane. That's all you need. And, you know, do your own thing that makes you happy for your antenna. I know a lot of people have opinions about that. I'm not going to get into it because I just don't care. So that's the first one. That's Crossfire for an iNav or Betaflight. This one is going to be a setup S-Bus that I will be showing you in the future how to do with an S-Bus stabilizer. And that includes Copilot, by the way, right? Copilot's an S-Bus stabilizer with return to home. When they figure out the Channel 5 thing, we're going to be talking about Copilot. Believe me, I'm going to do a full configuration and show you guys. So you've got S-Bus, but keep in mind, same receiver. Right? All I have to do is maybe modify the board a little bit and add on a little $2 board. Same receiver, same transmitter, same receiver, same binding setup, same binding process. Everything's the same. Same firmware. It's all the same. And then the final is PWM. And there's a couple of different formats for this. You can buy a ready-made PWM like this, or you can get one of these PWM boards that I've shown you guys a couple of times. This is the PWM conversion. This one's got a current and voltage sensor, and there's our little Express LRS receiver. So this is what I'm talking about, man. It's one receiver, and you got everything. You got it all in one process to bind. You can go radio to radio. You can take your receiver, your transmitter, and take it out of one radio, put it in another radio, and everything stays bound. You never have to go through those shenanigans again. If you want to do a second transmitter, all you've got to do is buy it, flash the firmware with the same binding phrase you used on your first one, and guess what this will do? It'll bind with every receiver you've got. So there's so much forward-looking capability on this platform that I just simply can't ignore it, because now it does everything. It's not just a quad transmitter receiver RF link anymore. It's for fixed wing, it's for stabilizers, it's for quads. It could even do helicopters, although, you know, helicopters is a whole different ball of wax, because now you've got telemetry from a fly barless that has to be integrated. And the fly barless community, they move a little slower than these open source guys. These open source guys are moving really quick. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to explain where the energy is coming from with me on Express LRS, and why I'm kind of motivated now, because when 3.0 dropped, man, that's it. That changed it all, because they gave us 16 proportional channels. I mean, they gave you everything you needed, and then the companies came right in behind it. Oh, and by the way, I can't say specifics, but I can tell you that just watch the marketplace, because these companies are stepping up and getting behind Express LRS. You're going to see some stuff come out. Believe me when I tell you that. You're going to see some stuff come out. They're already doing it, but you're going to see some stuff come out on Express LRS, man. That's going to happen. You just keep an eye out. What's going to happen? Okay, so that's it. That explains the kind of impetus I have for Express LRS and why I've been so excited about it. All right, let's see. Yeah, Express LRS is definitely a win-win. Oh, and the price point's right. You know, depending on whose you buy, you get these receivers anywhere from 13 to 18, 19 bucks. So, you know, the receiver price is right too. It's hard to beat it. And the range, I mean, it's unquestioned. There's plenty of documented visual evidence proof of how strong the range is on these things. So there's really no questions there. Okay, last thing, EdgeTX update. I wanted to just touch on this real quick for you guys tonight, because EdgeTX, they normally work on a 3-month development cycle, and they have releases scheduled every 3 months. Well, you might have noticed, if you're, you know, in the EdgeTX world, you might have noticed, hey, wait a minute, how come we haven't had an update in a while? And it's because of this. They're going through this LVGL graphics upgrade. So you can see, there you go. You know, you can see some of these LVGL features. They're going through this upgrade process, and it's a big one. So rewriting a lot of the arrangement for the buttons and the graphical layouts for everything to be more touch friendly takes some time. And they recognized pretty early on in this release cycle that they were going to need more time. So they extended the deadline to September 28th. So we're coming up on about 6 weeks target. Remember, they're open source, they're volunteers, so we can't, you know, it's not a company. These are all volunteers, just like you, just like me. They volunteer to do this stuff. So we can't pressure. All we can do is watch and wait and support them the best we can. So the target is end of September, but that could push again depending on how they do with making this migration to LVGL. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you've been waiting for 2.8, a lot of people ask the question. I get a lot on the videos, especially when I do an Edge video. Hey, when's 2.8 coming out? Well, it's targeted for end of September, and it'll hit when it hits. All I can say is that they're very thoughtful about what they do. They do try and make sure things are right. I gotta tell you, aside from some migration oriented issues like moving from bin to YAML, that was a little painful, but that wasn't a fault, right? It was just a conversion, and we had to kind of help everyone get over that hump. So aside from those types of things, I think they've done a really stellar job keeping the platform itself quite stable. So very stellar job on that front. So that's it. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of information on what's going on with Edge, so you had that understanding of where we are with the next release for 2.8. I know a lot of people are looking for it, but hey, you know what? 2.7.1, I've been using it a ton. It is rock freaking solid. It's a great platform. Go out there and fly it and have fun with it, and 2.8 will come when it comes, right? We'll get it when they're ready. We'll see it. I can promise you that. Okay, Robert says a certain new goggle company did the same thing, and now they regret it and pushed it out way too fast. Yeah, the what's that? The walk shark or whatever? The walk fail. I don't whatever it is. I've been watching that a little bit, but man, DJI, they were, there's a thing about in business, it's called first mover advantage, right? So DJI was the first mover to get a viable digital product out, and people went out and bought them, and then you watch the videos like, oh man, that looks so cool, I want that. and then you go get it, and then you invest your money, and you get so much money put into it that, you know, even the next thing comes out, you're like, I don't really want to start over, you know. So they get that first mover advantage, and I agree. You know, that's what DJI did. They moved quick. They got a decent product out the door, and they definitely got first mover advantage, no doubt about it. Hey Bill, glad you could make it. A little late, but you know what? There's a replay button, so hopefully you can watch the video when you're ready. So there we go. All right, fellas, that is it for me tonight. That's the end of the content. I am going to try and fly. I tried to fly last week, and I friggin' took a spill in the garage, twisted my ankle, screwed up my knee, so I couldn't go flying, but I'm better now. So hopefully this weekend I'll get some flying in, Saturday or Sunday. I will warn you, though, rain has been consistent. We get rain every single day between about 2:15, 2:30, and about 4 is when it starts. It normally goes for about an hour, hour and a half, so we'll see. I got to see what the rain's going to do, but I really, really want to fly, man. It's been like 6 weeks since I've been flying. I'm dying to get my game bird out again, get one of my quads out. I just need to go fly, man. I got the hankering. We are getting old. Yeah. I biffed it, man, pretty good in the garage. It was wet. Of course, it was raining, and my garage floor is concrete, so you know, I was moving, kind of hustling a little bit, getting stuff in and out of the car, and man, my shoe hit that wet concrete, and that was it, man. Up in the air it went. I came down like a sack of potatoes. It was ugly. You don't need your ankle to fly. No, you don't. You don't need the ankle to fly. You just need it to walk and carry the planes, because I don't have my, what do they call those guys, Gurkhas or Burkas? I don't have one, so I need someone to carry my stuff for me. Oh, okay, so coming up, I want to let you guys know, just coming up, I've got another radio coming, oddly enough, so you'll get to see another radio pretty soon. That one is coming from Banggood, and it'll be probably another week or two. So I do have another radio on the way. I've got a bunch more Express LRS stuff. I've got some more stabilizers coming, but like I said, I really kind of want to see what they do with that channel 5 thing before I do the S-Bus one. So all I can say on S-Bus, I know I teased you with that one, but be patient. I promise you I'm going to do the S-Bus video. It is literally the most important stabilizer video I will do this year. So I promise you it will happen, but I really want to give them time to figure out how they want to handle channel 5 before I start putting out content saying, okay, we're either going to work around it, or based on what they're able to do, you know, here's the way to set it up correctly. So it's coming. Just hang tight for that. And I also have some battery chargers on the way too. So have a lot of things coming, you know, inbound. We're back on a production schedule again. We're pumping out videos, doing stuff, hopefully get some flying in, and that's it. So anyway, Robert says you need your food cart like Hobie. Yeah, you know those little cats, when they lose a leg, they run around on that little cart that they strap their ass to the cart, and they just roll and they pull the cart along. That's what I need. I need one of those old walkers. I'm not that old. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me on Friday night. Remember, we're coming into football season. Just a reminder again, football season's coming, so we're going to be shifting Pilot Jam probably from Friday to Thursday. I don't want anyone to be surprised. Hang tight. That's going to be right around the corner. And I appreciate you guys spending time with me on Friday night, as always. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for joining me. Get out there and fly something. That's all I've got for tonight, guys. Take it easy.